Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Worcester. This has long been one of my favorite tier 10 cruisers. I find the utility this ship brings combined with the absolutely ridiculous damage it can output to be a very fun combination. It's a little risky to play at times as it still has light cruiser armor, so pushing up like this can be a bit tricky, as well as the general meta being rather passive these days. But every once in a while I get some of these games where we're able to push up rather close on some of these islands and farm away. In this one also we can play with some div mates, and you'll see that the AA can be pretty good here. Worcester has some of the best AA in the entire game. It's still very hit or miss, which is kind of comical throughout this game, but that's a little bit later. For now though, we are going to farm some battleships down, as there's a few of them that are pointed bow in towards us here. As long as we can stay dark behind this island, we should be fine. We will take a lot of damage though if they do end up spotting us. We're flat broadside, potentially to a Wisconsin. That's very scary, so let's get out of the way of that guy very quickly here. Worcester has a very weird citadel. I do have to bring this up whenever I play this ship, since the rear 3 turrets, their citadel is so far below water that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really count as a citadel, in my opinion, where the rest of the ship does have an above water citadel. So if we reverse out from islands, sometimes you can get away with it. In this case, though, I do take 1 citadel, but I probably should have taken more, considering that was Wisconsin. Getting a little absent-minded here, but getting very lucky to stay alive in this one. The real strength of Worcester, though, is these 152mm guns, something like that. But it allows you to pen 32mm of armor if you take IFHE. And I do generally take IFHE when I'm able to get over that 32mm threshold. With Worcester here, it can definitely do that, and I value that alpha damage, the consistent damage from the shells hitting, over just a little bit more fire chance. For me personally, that just results in a more enjoyable experience. Into a GK, of course, it's not going to make much difference, but you'll see as we start shooting at some of these other battleships with more 32mm, it's going to do some good damage. And it's not like we don't have any fire chance afterwards, but it is reduced, so you're not going to get quite as many fires, although I do get quite a bit of fire damage in this one. We do get a radar here, 9 kilometers, not 10 kilometers, like we'd see on a Des Moines with the American radar. So a little bit worse, but our concealment is better, and we have much more DPM to put on target on some of those destroyers. And just hold mouse 1, man, and just become a flamethrower. It is a little easier to use too than something like a Colbert, which does have more DPM than the Worcester does, but it's a smaller caliber, floatier shells, less range, so it makes it a little harder. So I find Worcester just a little bit easier than that ship, for example. We do have a little more HP as well, which is nice. And then having that combination of both hydro and defensive fire, we're not really at a disadvantage then when it comes to, let's say, submarines at closer ranges. We got the hydro for that, spotting torps, all that good stuff. And then we still have a defensive fire that sometimes is going to help us against those carriers. The AP is not bad on Worcester, but it's not great either. So for the most part, I'm just going to be spamming HE out of this ship. There's no improved pen angles on it, but man, this HE is very good and very consistent. Good reload here, and generally the dispersion is going to be pretty good, allowing you to pinpoint the superstructure of a lot of ships, like a GK here, for example. We do have to be careful, again. GK and Iwami were kind of caught in a crossfire here, so little bit sketchy, hoping that we can get around this island before the GK gets a shot into us. And it hits towards the stern, and we actually take no damage, fortunately. Now to deal with this Iwami, I will try to turn in, slow down and turn in, and just hope, basically. There's some luck involved with playing a light cruiser at close range, don't get me wrong. But a lot of the times, overpens, battleship dispersion, aim bugs, let's be honest, there's some serious aim bugs, shells go short, lock-on bugs, island bugs, all that stuff. You know, on the other side, when you're not playing the battleship and you're the cruiser, it feels all right to take 0 damage from those battleships at close range. Now, trying to protect our friendly Yamato div mate here from the midway. Defensive fire is up, and we're not really shooting planes down. We get a couple, I suppose, but not necessarily what you'd like to see. It feels a little bit too RNG based. And this is one of my main problems with carriers. It's been that way for a very long time. It just doesn't feel like gameplay. It feels like something that I have no control over, and it just happens to be in the game. And I don't really like that very much. I want more control over it. I want a PvP experience to be PvP, not just a random chance for a carrier to come click on you, right, and do a bunch of damage. Although we're going to get the flip side here in just a second. Kremlin behind the rock, just barely able to spam over this is the nice side of poor shell arcs. We can shoot over some of these islands at closer ranges, and hopefully he can't shoot back at us. I'd love to take him out here. That would really help our teammates out. We're up to 160,000 damage. In this very short amount of time, we're like, what, 5 minutes into this video? There's been some cuts, of course. This game has gone on for a long time. It took me a while to get into position, but that's a lot of damage rather quickly. I'm very excited, as Wargaming's already announced the next super ship is going to be a Super Worcester, so I'm very excited to see whatever that ship takes shape to be, and just because Worcester is one of my favorite tier 10 cruisers, so I'm very excited to see what the super version is going to look like. More DPM, maybe more range, I don't know. Whatever the funny button is going to be. Right now in testing, this is still testing, but right now it looks to be giving you the pen of IFHE without the penalty as your combat instructions. That sounds pretty strong, so no need to take IFHE anymore. We'll see if that actually comes to the game, of course. That's just still in testing. The dev blogs are talking about that, of course, but Worcester on its own is still very powerful these days. And trying to keep our div mate alive here. Very, very low HP Yamato. Can we do a little get down, Mr. President? I think we might be able to. Worcester, as it turns out, not a bad auxiliary torpedo belt for a Yamato.
Problem solved, sir.
So we'll keep our Yamato alive here and hopefully be able to chase down this carrier. You saw that one burst of flak that took out an entire Midway squadron there earlier, right? I'm sure that doesn't feel very good from the Midway's perspective either. It feels too random, right? It feels too random. Defensive fire again. Now you might think, okay, if you got defensive fire up, you just smash all the planes. You don't have it up, he gets the drop through, right? Nope, that's actually not it either. Stop trying to make sense out of carriers, all right? It's not gonna work out. That's actually 10,000 damage. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. But hopefully we'll be able to take him out here as we get towards the end of this game. Very close, down to the wire at the end here, but I think we're going to come out on top. I hope our carrier can deal with the enemy Shimakaze in the north, and we can run towards this Midway and hopefully take him out as well. Taking something like range mod, I don't really value that highly on Worcester just because the shell arcs are already not great out to these longer ranges. So you need a lot of lead even at the 15, 16 kilometers that this ship does have already. So I'd just rather take the reload and then focus more on my positioning to try and get closer. Although there are certainly games where you're just not allowed to get closer and then you're just useless as a light cruiser in a lot of these super ship, these high tier games. I totally get it. It's hard. It is not easy with the way the current meta is. And maybe, hey, maybe the Super Worcester will help that. At least be a light cruiser that can play a little bit more for those longer ranges. I don't know. They might buff the shell velocity. We'll see. But for now, Worcester's not a bad tier 10 in the current meta, even with how passive it is. And for me personally, I just love it. So I do like to play it a little bit more. But I get that it's not easy with these light cruisers these days, as everybody does like to stay at the back of the map. So 183 into this one, and pretty decent amount of farming potential there. The damage racks up fairly quickly when you're playing a Worcester. And as for the build here on the Worcester, I'm a little bit greedy, of course, to get more damage out of this ship. And there are ways to build it that's a little bit easier to play than this, but I actually do take heavy HE and IFHE to get those really juicy HE shell pens. That does mean we have much worse concealment than you otherwise would. 11.2 is still pretty solid, but for a light cruiser, we can do better than that. It's much better if you don't take heavy HE. If you're struggling with this ship, don't take heavy HE, take the full concealment, and play around that a little bit more. That should help you stay alive. But that does get us more damage output, more DPM, and even with taking IFHE, we still have an 8% fire chance with 12 shells every 4 seconds, we should be getting lots of fires, and we certainly did in that game as well, which feels good. I'm lacking on Survivability Expert, and I suppose, to be fair to the AA system, that they recommend you take both AA upgrades, so maybe that makes the difference. Although I still have a feeling that it's a lot down to RNG and everything's out of your control anyways. Incoming Fire Alert is a very useful skill so that when you're farming, you just see the notifications, someone shot at you from long range, and you can take evasive action. It allows you to not pay as much attention and still be able to dodge some of those long-range shots. As a battleship player, I think this skill is busted. As a cruiser player, it makes my life way easier. Two sides of the same coin, I suppose. Consumable Specialist getting us back to those consumables quicker, and then consumables enhancements also to extend your radar range, your radar duration, hydro duration would be nice. But as I said, I'm already a little greedy for damage, so I'll take the 1% fire chance. And the upgrades here, very standard, I would say. Radar mod, I suppose, although, you know, if you haven't killed a DD within 48 seconds of you using your radar at 9 kilometers, you know, you probably weren't going to kill it anyway, even if you do extend it even longer than that. So it should be dead already. So maybe not as necessary. And then, like I said, I do prefer that reload mod overall. But a very strong ship, very fun to play, although the meta these days can make it much more difficult than when the Worcester first came out. Very interested to see what that super version looks like, of course. Here you can see those last couple of turrets. The Citadel stops here for some reason, right? And if we pull back the curtain a little bit, it just drops off. Now, where I did it on the island there, where I reversed out and the Wisconsin got a good shot into me, he hit like here. I should have taken massive hits. I don't know why I didn't take more damage to him. I got very lucky there. And but if you have a taller island, you actually can reverse out and expose these rear 2 turrets and not be citadeled at all, which is kind of hilarious. A very niche thing, but hey, I do got to point it out because sometimes it does matter. But for the most part, try not to get shot at and focus on that damage from behind islands or in smokes. If you got div mates, that kind of thing can be quite powerful. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's just a quick one here on the Worcester. I really like this ship. And let me know what you think in the comments down below about this thing. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.